Greetings and welcome to Pop Culture with Pierce. Now join me on a journey through the cinema of America, cinema of the world, the people behind it, and the industry around it. Thank you very much. And joining me today, I have a economic genius here, my friend here, Jimmy V, and he is here to dissect the current state of the movie industry.
That's pretty high praise. Thanks.
In all honesty, everybody, Mr. V here, he was my former economics teacher, and he's a big movie buff.
Yeah, well, movie buff, but I don't have anywhere close to the knowledge of movies and history of movies and such that you do. So I hope I don't look too foolish here.
Yeah, I sure hope not too. As you know, the movie industry is a big presence in the American economy, at least. There is a proposed merger between Warner Media and Discovery Incorporated. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but it is in talks of happening, and it's supposed to be structured as a reverse Morris trust.
I think what you're referring to is like the monopoly issues that arise with these mergers, and if you're taking a market that has a great deal of competition, and through a number of mergers, you're creating a market to where it has far less competition. There's fewer firms in there. So Discovery with Warner Media, and the consolidation of everything, and then and also Amazon with MGM, I think raised similar problems. To where there's there's talks about if this is creating a monopoly type of environment. So it's funny because when you and I were on the show at school, we were talking about like the effect of China and everything, and one of the things that we discussed was all of the different streaming services, all the different streaming platforms that exist, and the question was like, who's going to subscribe to like a dozen different streaming services, right?
Right.
Especially if each one of them are like anywhere from $6 to $12 each. I mean, that's crazy. And I jokingly said, what someone's ultimately going to do is they're going to have one streaming service, and then if you get theirs, you're going to have access to all these other streaming services through them, and we're sort of going to like reinvent the concept of cable TV.
Right.
I don't think we've gone quite that far, but when you look at Discovery with Warner, Amazon, and MGM, and then Disney with the insane amount of IP that they now own,
Right.
we're sort of going back in that opposite direction. Instead of like an expansion of a bunch, now it's more consolidation and coming back in.
I have a question. So, aren't there laws that prevent such big mergers from happening?
Well, yeah. I mean, like anytime that you have consolidations like that, especially if it's already a market that is pretty highly regulated, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the federal government has to approve it, which is why something like Ford and GM would never be allowed to merge, because there would only be the one entity in the domestic car market. So right now there's only two. They used to have three, but then Chrysler got bought out by Fiat.
Right.
So like any time that you get something like that, the federal government has to come in and approve it first. Because quite frankly, when it comes to monopolies, monopolies basically today exist only if the federal government wants them to.
Only if the government wants them to. All right. I guess that explains how Disney was allowed to get so big, because Disney has a lot of IP, like an insane amount of IP.
Oh my God, yeah,
They've acquired
a ton.
Lucasfilm, Pixar, Marvel. It's insane.
21st Century Fox too.
Yeah, and it's amazing how, ESPN too.
ABC.
Yeah, and it's like
it's endless. I mean, the rat is in everything.
And so, what does Disney have where the government just turns a blind eye to Disney buying up all these companies and just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The balloon has to pop, right?
Well, I mean, Disney has a lot of IP, but it's not all like the same kind of IP, I guess. Like you have sports
Mhm.
broadcasting, then you have ABC, and then there's movies. I mean, like it's a lot of stuff, but it's not all like the same thing. Like it's like they're not buying out
Mhm.
like they're not buying Paramount and MGM and Warner, where that would all be sort of like the same thing. Uh, plus the fact
Right.
that I mean, let's face it, every time every time laws about IP are reviewed up in DC, it's always Disney that's lobbying on behalf of itself. So they're always behind
Mhm.
rewriting the laws to fit whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish.
Indeed, they are. I know their characters, for example, like Mickey
Right.
Mouse, Goofy, Donald Duck. So those characters are all supposed to be in the public
Yeah.
domain
No.
by now. If we were going by the laws when they were first created,
Yeah.
right? I know because I've read about this. They've had numerous times they've lobbied to extend the copyright
Right.
extensions so they can add just more and more time to these characters so they can keep making
Right.
money off of them. I don't know how long can Disney perpetuate that?
Well, I mean, I believe. I mean, I'm not a copyright attorney by any stretch, but I believe
Right.
what they were able to do was instead of the IP being tied to a person, being tied to Walt Disney, and I think Walt Disney died back in '68 or something, right? Um, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but now it's tied to the company. So when we talk about like the
Mhm.
life of the author, like that sounds like a human being, but now it's the
Mhm.
company, and then you're talking about the life of the company. I mean, how long is Disney going to live? I mean, I mean,
Forever
yeah,
at this
I mean,
point.
Disney's probably going to outlive everyone that's in my class next year. So, I mean, honestly, I mean, with as big as they're getting, and uh, and how they keep expanding, um, there's certainly no slowdown
Mhm.
in the future.
Let's talk about the whole Amazon buying Metro
Mhm.
Goldwyn Mayer. Now, Metro Goldwyn Mayer had put itself up for sale a
Right.
few months ago, and they were finally bought out just
Hmm.
last month for about $8.45
Yeah.
billion dollars, which to me sounded pretty low because I'm thinking, okay, MGM owns
Hmm.
Rocky, you
James
know,
Bond.
uh, Lo-
Yeah.
yeah, James Bond, Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings,
Oh
right?
yeah, I forgot about that one.
Like among other things, these are such
Mhm.
big properties. They're not
Right.
Marvel big, but they're still big enough. And I'm thinking MGM's been around for a while, and they've have hundreds, maybe thousands
Yeah.
of movies dating back to the 1930s, even of just
Hmm.
classic movies. And it's like, how's that only $8.5 billion? To me, it felt like it was so much more.
I think I remember a couple of months ago, and I think uh, I don't know if it was your class or someone else's, um, but there was talk about how MGM had financial problems. So
Mhm.
I don't know if it was like debt issues or something, but I thought the same thing when I saw that Amazon bought them out for like 8.5 billion or whatever. I was surprised at the
Right.
number. I thought it would be significantly more than that, but I don't know if there was I don't know how deep the financial problems at MGM went, but and
Right.
it's funny because like when just going back to the last conversation about Disney today is infinitely stronger than MGM was back like in the 20s and 30s, back in their heyday when they were the big one, on the block. And then
Right.
you look at MGM today, and it isn't nearly what it used to be. But but I looked at this purchase, and I thought, well, I mean, this has got to be more about Amazon Prime memberships more than anything else, I would suspect.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing that I was like kind of afraid of when I heard that MGM was going to put itself up for sale because I'm like, uh-oh, all the movies that they own. Because I'm in the battle between physical media and
Mhm.
streaming media. I'm always for physical media, like having a
Sure.
physical copy. That way, if the internet goes out, I still have
Yeah.
it. MGM has such a wide library, and I have a lot of
Mhm.
MGM movies on physical format, and there's still others I don't
Right.
have. And it's like, what's going to happen to these movies once Amazon gets MGM? And like what's going to happen? Because I know Disney was notorious for like locking up movies
Right.
in a vault,
Right.
so to speak, right? So I'm like, uh, you know, please don't lock up James Bond or
Oh, I
what
can't.
any classic movie.
Something. I forget what their last name is. I can't imagine that they would allow James Bond to be sort of put in a vault. I mean, that's I would hope not anyway. But like stuff like Rocky and those kinds of. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't see anyone else that does that sort of thing like Disney does.
Uh, oh, MGM has Looney Tunes, all those
Oh,
characters, right?
goodness,
Bugs
you
Bunny,
can't possibly put Bugs
yeah.
Bunny in some sort of vault.
Yeah, and that's another thing I'd like to point out is James Bond as big of an intellectual property as it once
I don't think
was?
so. No.
Yeah, I had a feeling because I'm like, okay, even with the pandemic, James Bond had its fan base were mostly
Hmm.
older people because they all liked
Right.
Sean Connery, they all liked Roger Moore, and it's like a lot of them have died since the last James
Right.
Bond movie from 2015, and I don't see James Bond picking up any new fans because the movies look more and more like Mission Impossible movies than
Yeah.
anything.
Timothy
So
Dalton was an
yeah,
underappreciated James Bond. He did all of his own stunts.
he only did like
Like,
what,
yeah, I think two.
two? Like,
Yeah, a very
yeah,
underappreciated Bond.
I actually liked David Niven when he did Casino Royale.
That's going back
Uh,
forever ago.
yeah, it had Woody Allen as the villain.
Jeez.
I'm not saying that Mission Impossible is, designing the
Yeah.
movies for them, but I feel like Mission Impossible was trying. Well, it was supposed to be an adaptation of the
Hmm.
TV show Mission Impossible, but they were trying to be like
Right.
James Bond movies. At least the first couple movies were, and then they were getting more like even more heavy action oriented. They were actually getting really good. Ghost
Yeah.
Protocol was great. Rogue Nation was great. It's like, all right, they're making decent
Yeah.
action movies out of these Mission Impossible movies, and then uh, James Bond movies. They're great and all, but they're starting to look more and more like the new Mission Impossible movies, especially the Daniel
Right.
Craig
Right.
Bond movies. And it's like, stop what you're doing,
Yeah.
you know?
Uh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess if one has it is successful, then the other is going to copy what they're doing, I guess. But Tom Cruise, that's another one that does all his own stunts.
Mhm.
You see him jumping out of an airplane, on film. That's actually him doing it. I mean, it's crazy. I think
Can you believe he's almost 60
I
now?
think I read that he wants to go into space for a role too.
Yeah, I did hear that. I don't know how they're even going to accomplish that.
No, I can't even imagine the insurance that they've got to have on them if they're going to put him in space.
I'm trying to map out like the logistics of shooting a movie in outer space. I mean, it's easy to bring cameras aboard a
Yeah,
ship, right? They've done that before, but it's like, okay, now you need a crew, you need the director there telling you what to do, you need all these people, you need, yeah, insurance for one thing. Uh,
But I think you minimize it as much as
How
you
do you
can.
even?
So you get like 3 people up there. You've got crews, someone for the camera, even if that,
Mhm.
uh, and and then maybe who knows? Maybe the director could work virtually. Who knows? But when I read that,
Yeah.
um, as another thing that I jokingly said in class once about Tom Cruise. I said, well, the reason why Tom Cruise wasn't in the movie The Martian is because he would have insisted that it be filmed on Mars. but but um, I don't know. Sending a guy like that up into space, and even this talk about Amazon with MGM. That's not even Amazon's
Mhm.
biggest news of the week. Bezos is going up into space. He and
Right.
his brother, I think, they're going up next month. That's
What are
I,
they even gonna do?
sightsee. I have no idea. I mean, I'm happy to watch it on TV. There's no way I'd do it.
And we've been talking about Disney a lot today. Speaking of Disney, the new Loki series premieres
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
How
I'm
exciting
looking
is
forward to
that?
that
I
one. I
know
haven't seen it yet,
out of
but yeah,
out of all the shows, that's the one I was
yeah,
the most excited for. I have not yet to see episode one, but I'm definitely looking
yeah.
forward to it. WandaVision was good. Falcon and Winter Soldier
Yeah,
was okay.
that was disappointing. I mean, it was not that it was bad, but it was not what I thought it was going to be. WandaVision that was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, WandaVision had a point to its story, although the first couple
Well, yeah,
episodes didn't
yeah,
convince you of that. You definitely had to watch a good chunk of the show in order for you
for
to
sure.
realize, okay, there is a point they're trying to make here. Also, speaking of Disney, are you aware of this new Cruella Deville
Yeah,
movie?
yeah. My wife and I, both of us are wanting to go see that one.
I'll give you a heads up right now. I have
Hmm.
seen it. I liked, I'd say about 60%
Yeah,
of the movie, 65% of the movie. It's like the middle chunk of it is great. It's great stuff. It's got a great soundtrack. Let me tell you, it's got a kick-ass
okay.
soundtrack. Um, I'll tell you, the ending is horrible. I don't like the
Hmm.
ending.
Is that one on HBO Max?
No, I believe it's on Disney Plus. You would have to
Oh,
pay a little
oh,
extra
yeah.
money for
Okay.
it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
Uh,
Forgot what I was talking about. Yeah. So, what do you have to pay? Like $30 or something to see it, even if you have Disney Plus?
I think
Yeah.
that's the case. I think so. But you can go to the movie theater to watch it,
Yeah.
which is nice. Just forewarning, you would like the middle section of the movie, beginning and end, not
Yeah.
so much.
I'll keep that in
This is
mind.
this is a very obvious case of script existed first. Disney takes script and shoehorns Disney stuff into it afterward.
Yeah. I understand.
Back to a more economic related discussion. Do you think what do you think Amazon will do with MGM? I know they have a very expensive Lord of the Rings spin-off show in development.
Yeah.
$465 million for one
That's
season
crazy.
is ridiculous.
That's an insane price tag.
Yeah, and it's like it's Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is hard to tackle after being manhandled by Peter
Exactly.
Jackson, It's like there was that one Lord of the Rings adaptation in the 70s, right? And then it was like an animated movie. So it's not like that even counted. And then he had the Jackson trilogy. How do you even top that?
Uh, if you're talking about a streaming uh, television series, uh, I don't know if it's a question of topping that. I think it's again,
Mm-hmm.
it's a question of you're trying to uh, you're trying to put out some original content that's compelling, and it all comes
Mm-hmm.
down to selling Amazon Prime memberships. And I think that's really ultimately what Amazon was attempting to do with this. And like the titles and everything that they have with MGM. it lacks the like that wow factor. Like when Disney picked up Star Wars or Marvel. Like, I mean, that was huge. And MGM, doesn't really have that impact. I mean, it's big. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have the impact that that Disney had, or even Discovery picking up Warner Media.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's above and beyond anything else. Trying to sell more Amazon Prime memberships, and then like a Lord of the Rings series. I mean, I wasn't really a big fan of Lord of the Rings, but for the people that that enjoyed that series, a recurring TV series, based on it. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna, if they don't already have a Prime membership, I think that move alone is enough to sell them on it.
The Lord of the Rings is another series it's kind of aged a bit. Like, the movies are still fantastic, but a lot of years have passed since Return of the King. It's been what, 16 years, give or take, right?
I'll take your word on that one.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
It's like, I don't know, how are you able to judge whether like that ship has sailed? Was it really worth, instead of spending the money on original stuff, they're gonna spend it on a Lord of the Rings spinoff, and it's like,
well, I mean, how long did we go between Return of the Jedi and A Phantom Menace? That was like what, between 1983 and 1998,
1999
or 99. So you had a similar time gap, and like, and that wasn't, you're not talking about a small screen deal. I mean, you were talking about a big screen trilogy, and
right.
What kind of demand was was there for it, and I don't know, I remember when Phantom Menace first came out, I couldn't wait to get to the theater to see it. And after seeing it, I didn't even care that it really wasn't all that great a movie. It was just the fact that I'm seeing Star Wars movies again. So I mean, that was really my big takeaway. And then the Clone Wars, the next one after that, again, I mean, it was okay. But I didn't care. I was watching a Star Wars movie again. That's ultimately all that I cared about. So I don't know. Maybe like the Lord of the Rings fans.
Maybe that's that's the mentality most people will have, I suppose. Well, if that's the case, then I suspect that it'll be pretty successful then.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Because I do know Lord of the Rings was indeed a great trilogy, and even if so much time has passed, and I can understand. All right. Well, this is fun. I appreciate you coming on and talking the movie biz.
I really enjoy doing this. This is great. So if you're making another podcast and want to talk about something else, just let me know. I'm happy to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. V. All right, everybody. I'm so tempted to say, all right, Westport. I gotta get that out of my system, All right. Thank you very much for tuning in to Pop Culture with Pierce, a journey through the movies. I'm Pierce. Thank you very much. Until next time.